And I want to bring into the conversation addiction specialist, Dr. Jennifer Farrell, because Dr. Farrell, why has stimulant abuse become so prevalent?
People love these medications. Stimulants make us feel good, they help us study longer, they help us dig into projects and get things done, they cause a sense of euphoria, and they're used not just by students, but for people who need endurance. Pilots, truck drivers, people who have to sit and do things for a long period of time, and it can make boring tasks more exciting. So you can understand that even with people who don't have ADD, there's a lot of pull for using this medication. So these stimulant medications, for the people who actually have a diagnosed attention deficit disorder, can be very helpful. Taking it when you don't, when you have an attention problem that stems from another medical cause or a psychiatric cause, can be detrimental.
And if I may, one of the things that I find interesting is the increased misuse, prescription of opiate medication. We've talked about that so much.
Yes.
And it just feels like this is a little bit under the radar, starting to become that. Within 5 years, the number of adults being diagnosed and prescribed medicines tripled. It feels like this is going in that same direction. And because it's a prescribed medication, as we often do, it feels like we're letting down our guard and saying that, you know what, no big deal, you can get it with a prescription. Is that fair to say?
Well,
I think what's interesting to me about this is I work with kids with special needs. And in the special needs communities, families are concerned that kids are overdiagnosed with ADHD and then prescribed these stimulant drugs. But now we have adults who are looking to get the stimulant drugs and oftentimes trading them with their friends, college students. And I have kids in college, and my kids tell me that their friends often give each other these drugs, particularly coming up on a big test or a big project.
100%.
And let's be
it went on
real
in my
about
day,
it.
too.
Parents often know about it and encourage it.
But in my day it was Ritalin and Dexedrine, and now it's for millennials. I think a big issue, Dr. Travis, is when you take it and then you start mixing it. It gives you this, you alluded to euphoria, all this energy. Well, if you combine it with alcohol, you combine it with other energy drinks, which millennials love to do. They're just high functioning.
Yeah, you're throwing
want to get at it.
ever more central nervous system stimulants, maybe then throw in a depressant like alcohol. You're all of a sudden drinking more alcohol than you normally would, and that's how people can die. I want to ask you, what are the biggest risks with long-term abuse?
Well, even with short-term use, there's actually risks because these are stimulants and they stimulate the whole nervous system and our cardiovascular system. So people who take these run the risk of having heart attacks and strokes. A lot of the people who take them don't even actually take them as prescribed. They're not even prescribed to them, so there's no doctor monitoring their cardiac signs. Frequently, they'll take them and grind them and snort them, and they're taking them in these really huge amounts. And so you do have the risk factors not only for cardiovascular issues, but for going on rages. And becoming very agitated. And people can develop symptoms we call, the medical term is psychotic symptoms. That just means break with reality. So someone who takes a ton of these amphetamines can have symptoms that you and I wouldn't have, like hearing voices when no one's in the room, seeing things. They become very paranoid, and then they can act out on that paranoia and get into a lot of trouble.
Well, and I will say this, I've never taken one of these stimulants, and I've never taken cocaine, but I have enough people have told me they're very similar. Yes. It reminds me a lot of heroin, prescription opiates, cocaine, prescription stimulants. Again, I'm not saying there isn't a place for these prescriptions. You know, maybe, just maybe, Elite Daily running the story, the story of someone like Richard who lost his life. Hopefully people out there will start to listen. These are not benign.
Yeah, and hopefully parents will recognize you're not helping your kid by putting more pressure and encouraging them to take prescription stimulant. The word is prescription. These aren't over-the-counter pills. These are actually prescribed to people who've been diagnosed in a medical office, and that's an important point, and I hope college students get that message.
I think that's it. The education, parents, college, schools, it all has to start there.